Welcome back. It's Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Thanks for joining us again. Our guest is Tony Strickland. Tony is a member of the California State Senate. Thanks for joining us again. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Brad.
You bet.
Really
I want to talk about the California budget. Of course, we talk about it every year. There's always a deficit. Governor Brown has said that he wants to close the deficit with $12 billion of cuts and $12 billion of revenue, which would come in through an extension of tax increases from a couple of years ago. But he wants to put that to the voters. What do you think about that plan?
Well, I give Governor Brown credit in the fact that there's not a lot of counting gimmicks in this. In the last few administrations, Gray Davis as well as Arnold Schwarzenegger, they would do things like say, we're going to get $7 billion from the federal government, knowing that we're not going to get that kind of money. Yeah, they would say things like move the fiscal day by one. So I give them credit in terms of truth in budgeting. And obviously, there's always something that everybody dislikes in the budget, and we're going to have to make some hard decisions.
What about putting to the voters the ability to extend tax increases from a couple of years ago?
I'm opposed to that because bottom line is you have to look at the problem. And the problem is right now, we're the third highest unemployment state, only behind Michigan and Nevada. And businesses are fleeing, jobs are fleeing the state. They're going to Florida, they're going to Texas, and we're one of the high tax states. And if you raise the taxes, more and more jobs will leave the state, and we'll get less revenue into the state coffers.
But let me ask you this. I would presume you're opposed to the extension, but the issue is not whether you would vote for it as a voter, but whether the voters should have the chance to vote for it.
Here's the thing. The voters already had a chance to vote for these tax increases. It's called Proposition 1A.
I remember.
Almost 2/3 of the voters voted it down. In fact, in my district, it was 65% of the people already said, no, we're not going to raise these taxes. And the bottom line is people voiced their opinion on this sales tax increase, this car tax increase, this personal income tax.
It was a different time. I mean, the economy, if you can believe it, was worse then than it is now. And it was Arnold Schwarzenegger, who was not the best salesman, surprisingly enough. I mean, I'm just playing it out. You know, it's not the issue of whether you have to vote for it, but whether someone should be able to vote for it.
See, I am not going to make it easier to raise taxes in the state of California when I know that's not going to solve the problem, and I know that's going to hurt the problem moving forward. So right now, we're the third highest unemployment, only behind Michigan and Nevada. And the census came out, by the way, of congressional representation across the country. And then when you look at California, it's the first time in our history that we did not gain congressional representation.
Be a good thing.
No, but if you look at states like Texas, they gained 4.
Right.
If you look at states like Florida, they gained 2 congressional seats because jobs are leaving here and going to those states. Now, am I going to make it easier to make more people unemployed in California? I say no.
Well, that presumes that the extension would do that, but let's put that aside for a second. Okay, so let's say it doesn't get to the ballot or the voters vote it down. Because even if it does go to the ballot, that means we have an additional $12 billion to close. Where do we close it? I'm sure you're
look, we have to look at things, bottom line, we have to look at things that restructure California government. Let me give you one example. Caltrans right now has a rule that you can only contract out for 10% to private enterprise on their jobs. Well, why not raise that to 30%, 40%, 50%? Because that will actually put people to work.
Sure.
And we can offer bonuses for private enterprise, and that's not state employees that we're having to foot the bill for. And the bottom line is we need to look at all these things. And the reason why we're in this position is because Arnold Schwarzenegger missed the opportunity after the recall to go forward on a spending cap that says you can only grow the government population plus inflation. Had he done that right as he came in, we wouldn't have a deficit today.
So, in the final analysis, do you believe that the legislature can find $25 billion of cuts without gimmicks?
There's not $25 billion. That's the thing. When you look year to year, and this is the thing that most people in my district don't understand. If they expect a 10% COLA and you only increase spending by 5%, they call that a 5% cut.
I hear you. Okay, Tony, thanks for joining us. I'm Brad Pomerance. Back to HLN.